Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring this really fascinating book that you submitted called The Natural Laws of the Child. It's by Céline Alvarez, and it really digs into how children learn and, what motivates them and whether traditional schooling is actually, kind of missing the mark a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Might
It's
ask.
interesting because Alvarez doesn't just talk about the theory. She actually puts her ideas to the test in a 3-year experiment
Right.
at this French preschool
Okay.
called Gennevilliers.
Gennevilliers, yeah. And the experiment itself was really radical.
Oh, totally.
It was like, forget what you think you know about a typical preschool.
Yeah.
These classrooms were mixed age, and the kids were free to just pursue their own interests at their own pace, and there was very minimal adult direction.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
I know, it's kind of wild.
It is pretty mind-blowing when you think about the results,
Yeah.
which were actually documented by the French National Center for Scientific Research. Not only did the children progress faster than expected in math and reading,
Yeah.
some of them even surpassed typical grade level expectations.
Wow.
But it wasn't just academics. These kids showed remarkable generosity and empathy,
Oh, wow.
and they just developed a true love for learning.
That makes you wonder, right? Like, what if we've underestimated what kids are truly capable of?
Yeah,
What if traditional schooling is kind of inadvertently, holding them back a little bit?
that's what Alvarez's work forces us to confront.
Yeah. Yeah.
She really challenges some of our most fundamental assumptions about how children learn best.
Yeah.
And one of her core arguments is that a child's environment shapes their brain more than genetics do,
Okay.
especially in those really crucial early years.
So it's not just nature, but nurture
Yeah,
that plays a pivotal role
exactly.
in shaping young minds.
Precisely. And, this concept is also connected to the idea of brain plasticity,
Okay.
which refers to the brain's amazing ability to change and adapt throughout life.
So like a young child's brain is
Yeah.
super adaptable.
Think of it as a fertile field ready to be cultivated.
Okay.
The experiences they have, the environment they're exposed to, it all contributes to how their brain develops and functions.
So Alvarez says,
Yeah.
and this is a direct quote,
There.
"The good news is that there is no genetic fatality. We are all capable, regardless of the genes we inherit, of developing extremely sophisticated and positive intellectual and social abilities."
Right.
But then she adds this thought-provoking caveat.
Yeah.
The bad news is that the first environments in which the human child grows up are imprinted with great power in the intimacy of his neuronal fibers, for better but also for worse.
Wow. Yeah. I know that's pretty profound, right?
Yeah, it's like,
It's like our early experiences lay the very foundation
Yes.
for how our brains are wired.
exactly. And this brings us to one of the most hotly debated topics in early childhood development today: screens.
Now, Alvarez observed a clear link between screen time and attention problems in her classroom.
Okay.
And this aligns with a growing body of research on how screens impact developing brains.
Okay. Let's dive into that a little deeper because I think a lot of parents are grappling with this.
For sure.
So let's unpack what the research actually says.
Well, Alvarez cites studies that suggest that excessive screen time before the age of 2 can be linked to reduced language development, and it can hinder a child's ability to focus and learn.
Okay.
This is partly because screens trigger the brain's attentional alert system.
Okay.
Think of it like the fight or flight response.
Oh, that's
Okay. That kind of constant stimulation can be exhausting for kids and make it difficult to concentrate on other things.
So you mean like how maybe adults can zone out during commercials, but
Right.
kids, their brains are just taking it all in.
Exactly. They're soaking it all in.
Yeah.
So it's a lot for them to handle.
Okay.
Another critical factor is that screen time can disrupt joint attention, which is that back and forth interaction between a child and adult that's really crucial for language development, social skills, and learning in general.
Nice.
Imagine you're trying to teach a child the name of an object,
Yeah.
but their attention is glued to a screen.
Yeah.
That learning opportunity is lost.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like they're not even present.
Exactly.
Precisely.
And Alvarez actually describes a case in her book of a child who watched excessive amounts of TV
Okay.
and developed severe attention issues,
Oh, wow.
which persisted even after 2 years of intervention.
Wow.
So it can have long-term effects.
I feel a little scary.
It is. It underscores the need to be mindful of screen time,
Yeah.
especially for young children whose brains are still in those crucial stages of development.
Another key takeaway from Alvarez's book is this idea of mixed-age learning.
Right.
Now, at first glance, this might seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because don't we typically group kids by age so they learn with their peers?
That's the traditional approach,
Yeah.
but Alvarez's observations challenge that assumption.
Okay.
She noticed some remarkable benefits to mixing ages.
Yeah, like what?
Think about it. Younger kids can observe and model older children.
Okay.
It creates like a natural mentorship dynamic.
Yeah.
And then the older children have the opportunity to develop leadership skills, practice patience,
Yeah.
and even learn to become teachers themselves.
So everyone benefits in a way.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Alvarez has this beautiful quote about it. She says,
Yeah.
forcing children to live essentially with individuals of the same age represents for them not only a great cognitive deprivation, but also a social and emotional deprivation.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
She acknowledges the social and emotional benefits
Yes.
of those mixed-age environments.
Absolutely. And she provides these heartwarming anecdotes
Yeah,
about how the younger children in her mixed-age classrooms felt so safe
right.
and reassured by the presence of the older ones.
Yeah, it's like having built-in buddies.
I love that built-in buddies.
I know.
This all sounds great in theory,
Yeah,
but I'm wondering, like, would it really work
right.
in a larger, more diverse classroom?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and what about, like, the practical challenges of implementing something like this
Totally.
in a typical school setting?
Those are valid questions.
Yeah.
And we'll delve into some of the potential challenges and solutions.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about another one of Alvarez's passions.
Yeah, okay.
The importance of free play and real-world experiences for children.
Okay, let's explore that.
All right, so Alvarez believes that free play is not just about having fun. It's actually essential for healthy brain development.
Okay.
She draws on the work of researchers like Jack Panksepp,
Okay.
who argues that play is a fundamental biological need,
Really?
just like food and sleep.
Wow.
And it's crucial for cognitive and emotional growth.
So kids aren't just messing around when they're playing.
Yeah.
They're actually building important skills,
Okay.
connections in their brains.
Exactly. And Alvarez argues that natural environments and real-life activities are far more effective
Okay.
than structured, screen-filled environments.
She says, and this really resonated with me,
Okay.
I discovered the color of the seasons much later, as one discovers the depth and nuances of an Anglophone culture in just 1 month of living in England, whereas 8 years of teaching with beautiful images and beautiful videos failed to achieve this. The human brain cannot understand what it does not experience. No description, no image can replace the sensory, grandiose, and living lesson offered by nature.
Wow.
I know, right? It's
Egg.
so powerful.
It's beautiful. Like
Yeah.
real-life experiences.
You know.
Those that engage all the senses.
Yes.
Those are the most potent teachers.
The best teachers.
I've noticed that with my own kids, they often learn best through experience.
Of course.
They might not fully grasp a concept until they can actually like touch it or see it
Yeah.
or experience it firsthand.
It's like their brains are wired to learn through exploration and discovery.
Yeah. And that's precisely what Alvarez's approach emphasizes.
This reminds me of the concept of simplicity parenting,
Oh, yeah.
which emphasizes the importance of reducing overstimulation and creating more space for free play and exploration.
Right.
There's a book by Kim John Payne called Simplicity Parenting, where he describes an experiment he conducted with families who reduced their children's toys screens and scheduled activities.
Okay.
And the results were fascinating. The kids showed significant improvements in their attention spans
Really?
and their overall well-being.
That's really intriguing.
It is.
I can see how reducing overstimulation
Yeah.
could create more space for kids to engage in imaginative play
Yeah.
and explore their environment at their own pace.
So how can parents and educators create more opportunities for free play and real-world experiences? What are some practical tips for incorporating these principles into our busy lives?
First and foremost, it's about prioritizing unstructured time,
Okay.
allowing children to explore their surroundings,
Yep.
get their hands dirty,
Oh.
and engage in imaginative play without constant adult direction.
So just kind of let them be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about stepping back and letting them lead the way.
I think sometimes as adults we have this tendency to overschedule our kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Or to like hover over them during playtime.
Right.
but maybe we need to give them more space to just be kids.
Exactly.
And it's not just about creating time for free play.
Right.
It's also about encouraging real-world experiences.
Yes.
So like taking them to a park or a museum
And so-
instead of just showing them pictures in a book.
And even simple things like cooking together gardening
Yeah.
or helping with household chores
Oh, yeah.
can be incredibly valuable learning experiences.
I like that.
Remember, it's about engaging their senses,
Yeah.
involving them in real-life activities,
Yeah.
and fostering a sense of wonder about the world around them.
It seems like Alvarez's approach really flips the script on how we view children and their capabilities.
It does.
Yeah.
She believes that children are not empty vessels waiting to be filled with knowledge.
Right.
They're already brimming with curiosity, creativity, and a natural desire to learn.
It's like we just have to like nurture those things.
Exactly. It's up to us as adults
Yeah.
to create environments that nurture those qualities.
It's almost like we have just as much to learn from them
I agree.
as they do from us.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Speaking of learning,
Yeah?
Alvarez also emphasizes the importance of developing executive function skills
Right.
in young children.
Yes. And these skills are critical for success,
Yeah.
not just in school, but in life.
Can you remind us what exactly are executive functions and why are they so important?
Think of executive functions as the control center of the brain.
Okay.
They encompass a range of mental processes that help us manage our thoughts, emotions, and actions.
Okay.
This includes things like working memory, which allows us to hold information in mind and use it. Inhibitory control, which enables us to resist impulses and distractions.
So like self-control. Exactly. And cognitive flexibility, which helps us adapt to changing situations
Okay.
and switch between tasks.
So basically, these are the skills that allow us to plan, organize, focus, control our impulses,
Yeah.
and make sound decisions.
Precise.
Skills we need to thrive in pretty much every aspect of life.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing is that these skills are not simply innate.
Okay.
They can be developed and strengthened through practice and the right kind of support.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So she's not suggesting that some kids are just born with good executive function skills
Right.
and others are out of luck.
Not at all.
Okay.
She believes that every child has the potential to develop these skills.
Okay.
And she outlines specific strategies for parents and educators to nurture them.
So what are some of those strategies?
So, for example, she advocates for giving kids opportunities to practice everyday tasks
Okay.
that require planning, organization, and self-control.
So things like getting themselves dressed in the morning.
Packing their own backpack or helping with chores around the house.
Exactly. Remember that anecdote we shared earlier about the little boy who insisted on carrying 40 cylinders at once?
I remember that.
That's a perfect example of a child naturally seeking out a challenge
Yeah.
that pushes his executive function skills.
He was so determined to do it himself, even though it seemed impossible.
Exactly.
I love that.
And that's the beauty of it. Children are often intrinsically motivated to master new skills,
Yeah,
and they're not afraid to struggle.
that's true.
And it's in those moments of struggle
Yeah.
that their brains are really growing and developing.
It's like that saying, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors or something.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as adults, we need to resist the urge to jump in and rescue kids from every challenge or frustration.
Yeah, that's hard.
I know, but instead, we can provide guidance and support
Right.
while allowing them to experience the satisfaction of figuring things out for themselves.
It's about trusting their process,
It's-
even if it looks messy or inefficient to us.
Precisely.
Alvarez also emphasizes the importance of exactitude and precision in those everyday tasks.
Yes, attention to detail is key.
Okay.
By setting high standards and encouraging children to strive for excellence,
Right.
even in seemingly mundane activities,
Yeah.
we're helping them develop those important executive function skills.
So it's about setting the bar high and trusting them to rise to the occasion.
Exactly. And remember, she also encourages us to help children identify and correct their own mistakes
Right.
instead of immediately stepping in to fix things for them.
So it's about fostering that growth mindset
Yes.
and empowering them to become problem solvers.
That's an important point, because when we constantly jump in to fix things,
Right.
we rob children of the opportunity to learn from their mistakes
Yeah,
and develop their own problem-solving strategies.
I can see that.
Speaking of tools earlier, we touched on Alvarez's suggestion of using nonviolent communication, or NVC.
Yes, can you expand on what that is?
Sure.
And how it can help?
Absolutely. NVC is a communication approach developed by Marshall Rosenberg
Okay.
that focuses on empathy, understanding, and clear, compassionate expression.
Oh, okay.
It's about connecting with others on a deeper level, even in challenging situations.
So instead of resorting to yelling or punishment when a child is acting out,
Right.
you try to understand their feelings and needs and
Yeah.
communicate in a way that fosters connection.
That's the essence of it.
Okay.
Alvarez used NVC to help children resolve conflicts peacefully and respectfully in her classroom.
I see.
Instead of simply saying no hitting,
Yeah.
she might say, I see you're feeling angry, but hitting hurts others. Can you find a different way to express your feelings?
Okay, that's a great example.
Yeah,
It's not about condoning the behavior,
right.
but it's about helping the child understand the impact of their actions
Exactly.
and finding more constructive ways to cope with their emotions.
Precisely. And it's not just about conflict resolution.
Okay.
NVC can be used in all sorts of situations,
Like,
from expressing appreciation to giving instructions.
oh, okay.
It's about creating a culture of respect and empathy in the classroom, at home, and in all our relationships.
It seems like a powerful tool,
It is.
but I imagine it takes a lot of practice to master.
It does take practice.
Are there specific techniques or exercises that parents and educators can use
Yes.
to learn and apply NVC effectively?
There are Rosenberg's book, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life is a great resource.
Okay.
And there are workshops and online courses available as well. The key is to start by becoming aware of your own communication patterns
Right.
and then consciously practice using empathy and clear, compassionate expression.
So it's about shifting our own mindset
Yes.
and our own language
Did I do
before
it?
we can expect children to do the same.
Children are incredibly perceptive. They pick up on our tone of voice,
Yeah.
our body language, and our underlying intentions.
Right.
If we want them to communicate respectfully and compassionately,
Yeah.
we need to model those behaviors ourselves.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, this brings up a question I've been pondering.
Yeah.
We've been discussing all these innovative and inspiring approaches to early childhood development and education,
Right.
but how realistic is all of this?
Yeah.
Could these methods really be scaled up to work in larger, more diverse classrooms?
That's a great question, and it's one that Alvarez acknowledges in her book.
Okay.
Implementing these ideas in traditional school settings can be challenging.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
Yeah.
that there are systemic limitations,
Yeah.
bureaucratic hurdles,
Right.
and of course the need for qualified educators
Yeah.
who are passionate about this approach.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
It is.
Let's go.
Sometimes our current education system, with its emphasis on standardized tests,
Right.
rigid curriculum, and large class sizes,
Yeah.
doesn't exactly lend itself to child-led learning,
Right.
horizontal relationships, and the kind of individualized attention that Alvarez advocates for.
You're right. It's a significant challenge.
But that doesn't mean we can't make changes.
Okay.
Even small adjustments can have a profound impact.
So what are some things parents and educators can do to start incorporating these principles even within the constraints of the current system?
Well, for starters, we can advocate for more free play and outdoor time in schools.
Okay.
We can push for smaller class sizes and more individualized learning plans.
Yeah.
And even within a traditional classroom setting,
Right.
teachers can find ways to incorporate elements of child-led learning
Okay.
and create a more nurturing and supportive environment.
I imagine that would require a lot of creativity and flexibility on the part of teachers,
It does.
especially given the demands of standardized testing and curriculum requirements.
It does. But I believe that many teachers are hungry for change, and they're eager to find ways to make learning more engaging and meaningful for their students.
And what about parents?
Yeah.
How can we support this kind of change at home and in our communities?
Parents have a powerful voice. We can talk to our children's teachers,
Okay.
advocate for changes at the school board level,
Okay.
and create more supportive learning environments at home.
So it's a collective effort.
It is.
Parents, educators, and policymakers all need to work together
Yes.
to create a system that truly honors the natural laws of childhood.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that children are not just miniature adults waiting to be molded into a certain shape.
Right.
They're unique individuals with their own talents, passions, and ways of learning.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system that nurtures their innate creativity and love of learning,
Right.
rather than trying to force them into a one-size-fits-all mold.
I love that vision.
Yeah.
It's about seeing children as the capable, resilient, and brilliant beings they truly are.
Precisely. And it's about trusting them to lead the way.
Yeah.
After all, as Alvarez suggests,
Yeah.
we adults might have just as much to learn from children as they do from us.
What a profound thought. Welcome back to our deep dive into the natural laws of the child. Before we, went to that last bit, we were talking about the power of free play and those real-world experiences for kids.
Yeah, and how they contribute to development.
Right, exactly. And it kind of, it ties in nicely with Alvarez's focus on fostering executive function development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you remind us again what executive functions are and why they're so important?
Yeah, so think of executive functions like the control center of the brain. It's a bunch of mental processes that help us to manage our thoughts, emotions, and actions.
Okay, so like working memory, inhibitory control,
Yeah, all those things.
cognitive flexibility.
Yep, that's part of it.
So basically, it's the stuff that helps us plan, organize, focus, control our impulses,
Exactly.
and make good decisions
Pretty much all the things you need to be a successful human.
to thrive in life.
And the interesting thing is these aren't just innate.
Okay.
You can develop and strengthen these through practice and the right kind of support,
Oh, okay, that's good.
which is where Alvarez's insights are really helpful.
So she's not just saying like some kids are born with good executive function,
Right.
and some are just out of luck.
Not at all. She thinks that every child has the potential to develop these,
Oh, good.
and she gives these specific strategies for parents and educators to nurture them.
Okay, so like what kinds of strategies?
So, for example, she likes to give kids opportunities to practice everyday tasks
Okay.
that need planning, organization, and self-control.
Like getting dressed, packing their backpack,
Yes,
helping with chores.
Remember that anecdote we talked about before with the boy who was carrying all those cylinders?
Oh yeah, he was so determined.
Yeah, that's a great example of a child naturally looking for challenges that push those skills.
He wanted to do it himself.
It's really amazing. Children are really motivated to master new skills, and they're not afraid to struggle.
And struggling is how we learn, right?
That's when their brains are growing.
I always say to my kids, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. They roll their eyes at me.
I'm sure they do.
But it's so true, and I think as adults, we have to try to resist that urge to jump in and rescue them
Right.
from every challenge or frustration.
It is hard.
But we can guide and support them.
Yeah, and let them figure it out.
Let them feel that satisfaction of figuring things out for themselves.
Exactly.
It's like trusting their process, even if it seems messy to us.
Trust the process.
And Alvarez also emphasizes the importance of exactitude and precision in those everyday tasks.
Yeah, attention to detail is key.
So it's not just getting dressed, it's getting dressed neatly and correctly.
Yeah, set high standards and encourage them to strive for excellence, even in simple stuff.
Yeah, because that helps them develop those skills.
Exactly.
So set the bar high and trust them to rise to the occasion.
I love it.
And she also encourages us to help kids identify and correct their own mistakes
Yeah, absolutely.
instead of fixing things for them,
Let them problem solve.
which is hard.
I know, but it's important.
But it's so important to foster that growth mindset. Empower them to become problem solvers.
When we jump in and fix it, we take away that opportunity for them to learn.
Speaking of tools,
Yeah,
we talked about Alvarez's suggestion of using nonviolent communication,
right, NVC.
NVC. Can you expand on what that is and how it can help us?
Sure. So it's a communication approach developed by Marshall Rosenberg,
Okay.
and it focuses on empathy, understanding, and clear, compassionate expression.
Okay.
It's about connecting with others, even in challenging situations.
So instead of yelling or punishing,
Right.
you try to understand their feelings and needs
Exactly.
and communicate in a way that fosters that connection.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Alvarez used it in her classroom to help kids resolve conflicts peacefully.
Oh, wow.
Instead of just saying no hitting,
Right.
she might say, I see that you're angry, but hitting hurts others.
hmm
Can you find a different way to show your feelings?
Oh, that's good.
It's not about condoning it. It's about helping them understand
Right.
and
Yeah,
find ways to cope.
that makes sense.
It's not just for conflict, though.
Okay.
You can use it for all sorts of things.
Oh, like what?
Giving instructions, showing appreciation, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Creating a culture of respect, both at home and in the classroom.
It seems really powerful,
It is.
but I bet it takes a lot of practice.
It does.
Are there like specific techniques or exercises
Yes.
that we can use?
Rosenberg wrote a book called Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life.
Okay.
And there are workshops and online courses.
Oh, cool.
The key is to just be aware of your own patterns
Okay.
and practice using empathy and clear, compassionate expression.
So we have to shift our own mindset and language before we can expect kids to do the same.
Children are so perceptive, they pick up on everything.
Yeah, tone of voice, body language.
All of it.
So we have to model it for them.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
This brings up a question I've been thinking about.
Okay.
We've been talking about all this really cool stuff about early childhood development and education.
Yeah, all these innovative approaches.
How realistic is this, you know?
Right.
Can we scale this up
Yeah.
to work in bigger, more diverse classrooms?
Alvarez does talk about that in her book, right?
Yeah, she does.
It's a good question.
It is, and she acknowledges that it's not easy.
Like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes.
Yeah, it can be.
Our current system with standardized tests and rigid curriculums and large class sizes,
Right, all that.
it doesn't really lend itself to this kind of child-led learning.
It's a big challenge,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean we can't do anything.
Okay, so what can we do?
Even small changes can have a big impact.
What can parents and educators do to incorporate these principles into the current system?
Well, we can advocate for more free play and outside time.
Okay.
We can push for smaller class sizes,
Right.
more individualized learning plans.
Yeah.
Even within a traditional classroom, teachers can try to incorporate child-led learning,
Okay.
make it a more nurturing environment.
That takes a lot of creativity and flexibility on the part of the teachers,
Yeah, it does.
especially with all the demands of the testing and curriculum requirements.
It does. But I think a lot of teachers want change.
Mm.
They want to make learning fun and engaging for the kids.
What about parents?
Yeah, what can we do?
How can we support this at home and in our communities?
Parents have a lot of power.
Yeah.
We can talk to teachers,
Okay.
advocate for change at school board meetings,
Right.
and create supportive learning environments at home.
So it's a collective effort.
It really is.
Parents, educators, policymakers, we all have to work together.
To create a system that honors the natural laws of childhood.
It's about recognizing that kids aren't just little adults waiting to be molded, you know? They're
Yes.
unique individuals.
Yeah, with their own talents and passions.
And they learn in different ways.
We have to create a system that nurtures their curiosity and creativity.
Instead of forcing them into a mold,
I love that vision.
it's about seeing kids as the capable and brilliant beings they are.
Yes, and trusting them to lead the way.
And we might learn just as much from them.
That's what Alvarez says.
What a great thought. Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been really getting into this book, The Natural Laws of the Child, by Céline Alvarez.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It really is. And, in this last part, I want to kind of dig into something that stood out to me,
Okay.
which is Alvarez's critique of, like, the traditional school system.
Yeah, she doesn't hold back.
She does.
When it comes to what she sees as like the flaws of the system,
Right.
where it prioritizes standardization over, individualization and rote learning over genuine understanding.
Yeah, she uses this really powerful metaphor in the book.
Yeah.
She compares traditional schools to prisons.
I know, right? It's kind of intense.
It is a little bit, but
Kinda-
I think it speaks to a lot of parents and educators' frustrations with the system.
Yeah.
We can feel very focused on control and compliance
Right.
rather than nurturing a child's potential.
Like their natural abilities.
So how do we get here? How did we end up with a system that feels so out of sync with, these natural laws of childhood?
Well, Alvarez traces it back to a shift in educational philosophy,
Okay.
where we moved away from child-centered approaches.
Like Maria Montessori.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we kind of moved towards this standardized industrial model.
It's like we traded the fertile garden for the assembly line.
It's a great way to put it.
Right.
And I think we're starting to see the cracks in that system.
Yeah.
People are moving towards personalized learning.
Yeah. More experiential learning.
It's about time.
Right.
Right.
But it's like happening outside the mainstream.
Yeah, and like alternative schools or homeschooling.
So how do we bring these ideas into the mainstream,
Good question.
into public schools?
Where most kids are.
Alvarez doesn't just point out the problems, though, right?
No, she actually offers solutions.
Okay, so what does she say?
She imagines a future where education is more like a journey of discovery, where children are empowered to learn at their own pace, driven by their own curiosity.
So, like, schools would be more like these vibrant, joyful spaces
Exactly.
that celebrate the diversity of human intelligence.
Not cookie cutter molds.
I love that, but it seems like a pretty big shift
It is.
in our approach to education.
It starts with recognizing that Children aren't empty vessels
Right.
waiting to be filled,
They're active participants.
yes, in their own learning.
So instead of teachers being like the dispensers of knowledge,
Right.
they're more like facilitators or guides.
Yeah, creating the environment
Yeah.
that nurtures that curiosity.
Creating a space where kids feel safe to make mistakes, to
Exactly.
experiment.
Yeah, taking risks.
And she talks about those horizontal relationships too.
Yes.
Between adults and children.
Treating them as equals.
Yeah, with respect and trust.
It's tough in a school setting, though,
It is. There's a power dynamic there.
but it's not impossible.
So how do we do it?
We shift our language and approach.
Okay.
Instead of orders, we offer choices. Instead of imposing our will we listen?
So giving them a voice,
Yes, making them feel heard,
even in that structured classroom environment.
creating a partnership.
Yeah. Not a hierarchy.
And it's not just the teachers.
Right.
Parents are a big part of this, too.
So how can we as parents support this shift?
But think about the messages you're sending about learning.
Hmm.
Is it a chore or an adventure?
Right.
Do you emphasize grades or effort?
So instead of drilling them with flashcards or pushing for perfect scores,
Yeah.
we should be nurturing that love of learning,
That curiosity.
that intrinsic motivation.
Yes, let them explore.
Mistakes are just opportunities for growth.
Exactly.
It's about the process, not the end product.
Beautifully said.
And remembering that every child is unique.
Of course, what works for one might not work for another.
Right. It's finding what sparks their passion,
That's what it's all about.
honoring those natural laws of childhood.
That drive to learn and grow.
We adults have a lot to learn from kids, too.
Their wonder, their curiosity, their resilience.
We could all use a little more of that.
I think so.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive
It has.
into the natural laws of the child. Thank you for submitting this book.
And for joining us.
Keep exploring these ideas
Challenge your assumptions
and find ways to apply these insights to your own life.
and the lives of the children you love.
Remember, every child is a unique and precious gift.
A budding genius,
Let's create a world where every child feels seen.
valued and empowered.
Thank you for listening and keep diving deep.